Hello, welcome to the Security and Data Privacy Primer, focusing on the OpenAthens Single Sign-On Service and the EBSCO platform. My name is Amanda Ferrante, and I am Principal Product Manager for Identity and Access Management here at EBSCO. My role is to ensure that our authentication framework, including the ways that EBSCO integrates with modern authentication tools like OpenAthens, is easy to use, easy to set up and manage, and most importantly, reflects the privacy and security needs of the global research community. Today, this primer aims to meet three learning outcomes. We will summarize privacy-preserving features that are built into the OpenAthens Single Sign-On Service and also into EBSCO's authentication framework. We will provide information about OpenAthens and EBSCO's security certifications and posture. And finally, we will identify for you where you can find more information regarding all of the above. There are many reasons why a library or a university may choose to adopt a modern single sign-on authentication experience. It first solves problems of usability, notably the decentralized aspects of digital research that require greater support for open web access attempts, as well as research done in different physical locations and on different devices. It also allows for more granular access management, including data attributes like user group or role that are used to restrict or permit access to individual resources. Its industry standard protocols, such as SAML 2.0, allow for more seamless integrations between software products. Oftentimes, we see complex SaaS integrations built upon single sign-on. An example is EDS and Folio, where that integration uses single sign-on to connect the user session with important patron empowerment tasks and functionality. And finally, single sign-on enhances control as it relates to data sharing, allowing libraries to customize their configuration to meet their own privacy policies. SAML SSO also employs modern data protection standards, such as end-to-end encryption of data. Many of the benefits of single sign-on are due to its powerful data handling capabilities. And as such, when user data is involved in any way, shape, or form, then clear data handling and security features are really needed to ensure that appropriate protections are applied by your library when you're using these services. So let's start with OpenAthens. In this section, we'll summarize what OpenAthens is and how data powers the OpenAthens solution. We'll show the controls that are available to libraries to restrict and protect user data, and finally, we'll share some security specifics. OpenAthens is built upon the SAML 2.0 protocol, which is an industry standard that's known in part for its security. OpenAthens service includes a trusted federated single sign-on framework, which is going to support most of the authentication that's done through the OpenAthens service. OpenAthens is 100% cloud hosted using the Google Cloud Platform and offers a suite of identity and access management capabilities, putting all of that functionality at the library's fingertips. And importantly, OpenAthens is middleware that can integrate both with your institution's local identity system or directory of user accounts, and then also with downstream publisher and vendor platforms that require authentication. These are two junctures where data can be shared in an OpenAthens configuration, which we'll touch on in more detail in just a moment. To begin mapping the flow of data through an OpenAthens setup, let's talk about the two junctures where OpenAthens integrates with external systems. First, OpenAthens can integrate with local identity providers via SAML, LDAP, API, and soon OpenID Connect. Any changes that are made to the directory of origin, such as updating attributes, roles and memberships, adding new accounts, or decommissioning old accounts, all of those changes are reflected in real time in OpenAthens the next time that user signs in. Second, OpenAthens integrates with vendor platforms where researchers access content, tools, and services. This uses secure, federated, or one-to-one SAML authentication. If a target publisher does not yet support SAML, OpenAthens does offer a hosted proxy IP function as well. So, with regards to the data flow from your institution's local identity provider into OpenAthens. The only attribute that OpenAthens requires is a persistent, unique identifier. This can be any attribute of your choosing and oftentimes will be dictated by what data is available in your library or university's local identity system. In terms of persistence, this attribute must exist on all user accounts, and in terms of uniqueness, it must always be unique to each account. This attribute is how OpenAthens identifies an individual user, not necessarily their identity, but knowing that they are specifically unique. And that is how OpenAthens authenticates and personalizes the user from that point forward into service provider platforms. Aside from a unique user identifier, there is no minimum or maximum of attributes that must be released to OpenAthens from your local identity system. Administrators may choose to release some information, such as email address, to allow for more personalization. They may also choose to release other information, such as user group, academic department, role, affiliation, etc., for the purposes of configuring permissions to various resources. So again, while there is no minimum or maximum data that should be shared or must be shared with OpenAthens, there are certain types of data that could be shared with OpenAthens to enhance either the user's experience in downstream service provider platforms or to enhance the library's experience of controlling access to different resources. Data shared with OpenAthens from your institution's local identity system is stored in the cloud using encryption best practices. OpenAthens does offer the ability to minimize data that's stored in its service. It offers control to the library administrator to configure either length of time that data is stored for, especially in the instance of an account that's inactive, and also allows you to purge data on the spot. Regarding the flow of data from OpenAthens to downstream service providers. OpenAthens SAML Federation comprises a trust framework where service provider metadata, certificates, and encryption standards are kept current. The library can choose to not share any data with downstream service providers unless it's needed to enhance research experiences and functionality at that service provider's platform. For example, many service providers offer a persistent folder where the user can save content and return to it later if something like an identifier is received during the SSO authentication. If data is optionally shared to a service provider from OpenAthens, it is transmitted always via a SAML assertion. OpenAthens allows the library to configure data sharing on a service provider by service provider basis. Sharing user data from OpenAthens to service providers is not required and should be considered at the discretion of the library. When transmitting data to a service provider for personalized functionality, a pseudonymous identifier is always recommended. Pseudonymous, or also sometimes known as opaque, means the ID cannot be connected back to the user's actual identity without access to the original system, which would be the institutional identity provider. A pseudonymous ID might be an alphanumeric string, an ID number, something that's opaque and not transparently personally identifiable if that's the only piece of data that's received by the service provider. Some identity providers do not have a pseudonymous ID available. In this scenario, OpenAthens can assign a pseudonymous ID to each researcher, which can then be shared to service providers to support personalized experience while also preserving privacy. So what is OpenAthens' role in the login and data transmission process relative to the library's role or to the service provider's role? When using OpenAthens or any other similar authentication solution, the institution where identity originates is the data controller. And in this scenario, OpenAthens is called the data processor. A university, research facility, library, or knowledge management group, the data controller, who uses OpenAthens, the data processor, has full autonomy over what data is shared with OpenAthens and subsequently which service providers that data is released to. It's important to note here that OpenAthens never sells data, but allows the library to share data through its service to achieve certain research goals. What technology, frameworks, and languages are used? OpenAthens is a cloud-based software as a service product that uses Java, JavaScript, and PHP. Nothing needs to be installed locally, and server-side upgrades do not require changes on the client side. OpenAthens uses the Google Cloud to reach the global demands and scalability needs of the largest SAML authentication service in libraries today. And finally, does OpenAthens offer multi-factor authentication? While OpenAthens does not offer multi-factor authentication in and of itself, it can point to an institutional identity provider that has been configured for multi-factor authentication. OpenAthens complies with GDPR and other relevant regional privacy laws. It aligns with the International Standards for Information Security and is ISO 27001 certified. Personal data, when shared to OpenAthens, is kept behind firewalls to prevent unauthorized access and is encrypted in transit. OpenAthens is subjected to external penetration testing annually, and all major releases that include new applications or major new functionality are also pen tested before release. More information can be found at OpenAthens privacy policy and also in EBSCO or OpenAthens documentation. Now, let's talk about EBSCO. As a service provider in this authentication handshake, the data flow relative to EBSCO access is a bit different than the data flow surrounding the OpenAthens middleware product. Similarly, though, EBSCO offers configuration that allows the library and the researcher to exercise control over data sharing. In the single sign-on framework, EBSCO is a service provider. Single sign-on tools like OpenAthens can be connected to EBSCO's platform and support access either anonymously, where no personally identifiable information is shared, or personally, where minimal data can be shared to enhance some personalized functionality for the researcher. Notably, EBSCO's products support basic access to content and full text, but also to complex SaaS integrations and research functionality. In some of these more complex use cases, single sign-on and data sharing is needed to enable that enhanced functionality. In these scenarios, it's important to know the controls that EBSCO makes available to libraries to support that enhanced functionality while also preserving privacy. In terms of technical product specifications, EBSCO is a member of over 30 global single sign-on federations, including OpenAthens, but also many national federations such as the UK Access Management Federation. For any libraries or universities that are not yet a member of a federation, EBSCO also supports one-to-one or direct SAML integrations with an identity provider. All of this employs industry standard protocols and requirements for any federated user-based access, using encryption in transit and at rest, and security best practices. Using single sign-on access to EBSCO never requires personal identifiable information to be shared, and our baseline personalized experiences support using pseudonymous opaque identifiers in the place of transparently identifiable information. And finally, the library does control data sharing during that authentication handshake, much as it is the case with OpenAthens on this fully cloud-based service. An integration between OpenAthens and EBSCO, data is shared from OpenAthens, or the identity provider, to EBSCO, the service provider, via a SAML assertion. EBSCO offers a minimal data private policy. If group authorization is needed, EBSCO allows for mapping entitlement or affiliation data in our system. And if personalization is needed, though it is rarely required, a persistent unique identifier is all that is required, with pseudonymous or opaque IDs always recommended. EBSCO's administrative interface, EBSCO Admin, allows for the library to configure data received from the single sign-on system. While a persistent unique identifier is all that's required to support my EBSCO personalization or the creation of a persistent account, email, first name, and last name can also be shared to EBSCO from the single sign-on system to employ certain enhanced functionalities. For example, sharing email address can allow the researcher to more quickly and seamlessly set up email alerts while in the EBSCO platform. In compliance with global privacy regulations, EBSCO offers robust consent and data control features to researchers if and when they are considering creating a personal MyEBSCO account. If OpenAthens or any other SSO system is set up to transmit personal data to EBSCO for the purposes of account creation, then the user will see a disclosure that explains what data is retained and how it is used for account creation. A user can choose to deny consent to account creation and still access EBSCO products and content anonymously. However, as mentioned earlier, some complex software integrations rely on the user having a personal account in the EBSCO system. At any time, researchers who already have a MyEBSCO personal account can use a Forget Me feature to purge their data from EBSCO's system completely. EBSCO has implemented an Information Security Management System, or ISMS, that's in line with the International Standard for Information Security. The ISMS outlines EBSCO's stance on protection of data, ensuring the supply of goods and services to customers, and compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. EBSCO serves a global community of libraries and researchers, and as such, information security is of highest priority to ensure appropriate protection of information that's used to deliver that research functionality. EBSCO maintains certification under ISO 27001, as well as compliance under GDPR and other relevant data protection legislation. EBSCO never sells data. Data collected is used exclusively to build, maintain, secure, and deliver research experiences. For more information, we encourage you to visit EBSCO's privacy policy and our documentation. Finally, some key takeaways at the end of this security and data privacy primer. Both the OpenAthens single sign-on service and the EBSCO service provider platform offer controls that help libraries adhere to their privacy policies and values by providing enhanced research functionality while also allowing the library or the researcher to exercise control over what data is shared and for how long. OpenAthens and EBSCO also both prioritize security and compliance to meet the needs of the global digital research community that we serve. For additional questions, please contact your EBSCO account or support team. Our authentication, privacy, and information security teams are available to help with any questions, and we're always interested to learn more about how our product and practices can better meet research needs. I thank you for your time and your attention today and look forward to talking more.